snipers, let's talk about crypto security. We don't want to do all this hard work of investing, researching, trading, only to find out in the end that we've lost out to a hacker. I think when it comes to securing your crypto assets, you're going to treat this as high priority. There's the old saying of two guys in the forest and a lion jumps out, and one of the guys starts to run, and the other guy shouts out, "Where you going? We can't outrun a lion." And he shouts back to him, "Hey, all I have to do is outrun you." And that's the thing about security. You want to make yourself a hard target for hackers and malicious individuals out there. And by taking a diligent approach to securing your crypto assets, it's going to give you a leg up on the rest of the industry. So let's dive right into it. I want to start off by talking about wallet security. And the first aspect there I want to dive into is private key protection. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, although it's not so important. I think a lot of people think that their tokens are actually stored in their wallets. That's not really true. Your tokens are stored on the blockchain, but your wallet is one of the tools that allows you to access the blockchain. And that's where private key protection comes in, very importantly. Let me show you an example of what we're talking about. And this is a simplified example, right? Just for explanation purposes. These are two keys, your public key and your private key. And I guess you can imagine that a public key is really for the public, but a private key should only be known by you. And that's one of the ways you're going to protect and secure your crypto assets. So let me generate keys here and show you how they work. So here are two keys, public key 88 and private key 168. And of course, keys are much larger numbers, but this is just for the simplicity of explaining what a public and a private key, what public and private keys are. So here is your public key 88 and your private key 168, and they have mathematical relationships with each other, meaning if data is secured with my public key, the only key that can unlock it is my private key. And if data is secured with my private key, the only key that can unlock it is my public key. And so therefore, if you want to protect data, I want to make sure that data is only accessible to you. Well, that's where you use your public key. So let's say my message was, my crypto account has $1 million. Congratulations. And I want to secure that and make sure no one in the world can access that. Well, I'm going to encode that or encrypt that with my public key. Because remember, when data is encrypted with the public key, the only key in the world that can uncrypt it or decrypt it is going to be your private key. So let's encode the message. And there is the message, the encrypted message. A lot of whatever that is, right? A lot of garbage, gibberish. Yeah, not garbage, gibberish. Yeah. And if I want to decrypt it now, even though I used my public key, I cannot use my public key to decode the message. You see, nothing shows up there. I'm going to have to use my private key to decode the message. And that's the whole idea. Here we got back 1 million. And therefore, you now see how important private keys are. They're going to protect your crypto assets. So you want to protect your private keys. It's so important. No one in the world should know your private keys. Never give out your private key. That is so important. Remember, your crypto assets are secure as long as you keep your private keys secure. Seed phrase security is so important as we move on. You want to make sure that your seed phrase or your recovery phrase is secured somewhere that no one has access to it. And perhaps the best place you can do that is an offline location, or you want to have a fireproof safe, but certainly never store it digitally or share it with anyone. I remember there was this hack several cycles ago. I'm not too sure when. A noted crypto influencer personality, Ian Bellina, was hacked because his phrases, his private key, they were stored in an online digital location. I hope I'm remembering this story correctly. So never make sure your seed phrase or your recovery phrase is secured safely offline. If you might want to use a fireproof safe, but never store it digitally or share it with anyone. I certainly advocate for the use of hardware wallets. Perhaps a common brand is going to be Ledger. and they are expanding their offerings, and they've just launched a whole new suite, Ledger Stack, Flex, Nano Range. But one of the benefits of these hardware wallets, first of all, you're going to be able to keep your private keys offline. You're going to be able to keep access to your crypto offline, and that in itself is going to be a massive benefit. But hardware wallets essentially give us an enhanced security. They're going to protect us against malware and keyloggers. But one of the things I like about it's going to be a physical confirmation of transactions, and that's big. And therefore, you're gonna find that you're gonna be protected against these online attacks and hackers. And you say, what if someone actually gets my physical hardware wallet? But a lot of the hardware wallets also have protection against physical attacks, like you may have to have a PIN or something like that to enter before it's accessed. So hardware wallets, I certainly recommend it. Ledger is one of the leaders in the space, certainly something to look at. Two-factor authentication, I think, is important. We've seen it a lot, 2FA. Authentication is simply a way how you prove that you are who you say you are, or it's a way we identify ourselves. When we're talking about two-factor, think about it in real life. There are several ways you can identify yourself. One of the ways is by what you know. So you know a password, and that's one way you can identify yourself. Another way you can identify yourself is by who you are, and that's biometric. So you use your fingerprint or facial recognition. Another way you can identify yourself is based on what you have. And perhaps, as we talked about, you have a Ledger wallet, you have a token, you have a physical device. Another way you can authenticate is based on where you are. Perhaps you're at a particular IP address or physical location. So having multiple ways of authentication is going to really add to security. And this is where two-factor authentication can come in. It can play a big role in protecting your crypto assets, and it adds an extra layer of security. And you see it with most wallets now. So not only must you maybe have to have your fingerprint, or you have to enter a PIN. So multiple authentication measures are important. Our next point is to regularly update your software. Make sure your wallets, your computers, hardware wallets, exchange apps, because every time there are vulnerabilities, you're going to find they're going to have updates that will patch or fix these vulnerabilities. So staying updated is important. Beware of phishing and fake wallets. Sometimes you're going to see a wallet and you download it from a website, but it's a hacker. So make sure you're using the official websites to download your wallets. Secure physical access to your devices. Now, there's an old saying in the security world, if someone has physical access to your device, you are hacked. So making sure you protect your computers, your iPhone, perhaps where you have MetaMask or Phantom. It's so important to protect physical access to your devices. One of the common ways I hear people are hacked, perhaps they've connected to a website or a DApp, and all of a sudden that DApp is hacked, but they have not revoked their permissions. So you want to limit your connections, limit your permissions, and perhaps even revoke the rights you've given that DApp. So that's something to consider. Using multiple wallets where you distribute your tokens across multiple wallets is certainly going to minimize your risk. And lastly, backup. Make sure you have a good backup. Make sure your private keys are backed up somewhere. And we're going to talk a little more about that as we move on. So wallet security is big, and you want to use all of the measures at your disposal when it comes to protecting your valued crypto assets. Let's move on. As we talk about exchange security, some of the popular exchanges, firstly, I would say use a reputable and regulated exchange as much as possible. We know Coinbase has really been a leader in the space, Binance, Gemini. You want to make sure you're using an exchange that is not a fly-by-night. Certainly, you want to make sure there's some type of compliance. You find a lot of the lesser-known platforms, they don't follow perhaps good security practices. I remember I've lost some money. What was I can't remember the exchange. Was it in New Zealand? I can't even remember it, where I had some money in an exchange and it went bye-bye. Of course, as we spoke about earlier, most of the exchanges have some really good security measures. You want to follow them. Enable two-factor authentication, secure your login credentials. You want to use good passwords, right? Use strong, unique passwords. Don't make your password. For the love of your crypto, don't make your password, and the love of your family too. Don't make your password, right? So you want to have a um, strong password, good login credentials. If you have a lot of funds on your large amount of funds on exchanges, I wouldn't recommend you keep it there for extended period of time. Transfer your funds to a secure personal wallet, preferably a hardware wallet, because that's going to reduce exposure to exchange related risk. Some of the best exchanges, including Binance over the years, they've been hacked. And so the old saying goes, if it's not your wallet, hey, it's not your crypto, right? It's not your private key, it's not your crypto. So some things to consider: withdrawing funds to a personal wallet. Keep your devices secure. And remember, we said that before. If someone gets physical access in the world of security normally means you're hacked, right? And you say, but iPhone has the best security. My friend, the hackers today do all kind of things. You can't rely on iPhone security. They're actually going to change the board on that iPhone. Listen, physical security is paramount. Now, a lot of the exchanges have withdrawal whitelists, so specific addresses that you could withdraw to, you want to use it. Use all the means at your disposal. So setting up withdrawal whitelist to restrict withdrawals to specific addresses you control. This, of course, is going to help prevent unauthorized transactions, even if your account is compromised. You want to monitor your account activity and set alerts. Sometimes we leave money in exchanges and we don't even log back in to check them. That's risky. When you're going on an exchange website, make sure it's an official website, because it's one of the big ways that hackers use phishing attacks, right? Where they impersonate a website. So always verify the website URL. Avoid clicking suspicious links. Perhaps one of the top ways I see people get hacked, they click a link and you say to them, what did you click? And the best of us make these mistakes at times. I spent a good period of my life training banks, military, law enforcement about ethical hacking and countermeasures. Let's use that, right? If hacking can be ethical. So you find even the best of us sometimes in moment of weakness, excitement, we sometimes could be susceptible to phishing attacks. So you want to be very careful with that. Don't click suspicious links. And why not bookmark your exchanges? So using the bookmark feature in your web browsers, it's going to make sure you always go into the correct, because sometimes you may misspell something and that could be a moment of tragedy. Limit API key permissions. So sometimes we have apps that we're using to track our portfolio, and we use an API to connect to our exchange, an application programmable interface to connect to our exchange, and that puts us at risk. As a general rule, I never do that. I don't care how great the service is and what it's offering. Listen, security, it's part of, it's one of the things I consider very important. Use IP whitelisting where important. Perhaps you can consider that another form of authentication. Remember, we spoke about authentication is who you are, my biometrics. What do I know? My password. What do I have? Perhaps a hardware key. But also, authentication can be where I am. And that's where IP address whitelisting can come into play. And most exchanges have very good security features. I'm talking about reputable, regulated exchanges and account recovery features. So take a look at all of them. All of the recommendations you see: security settings, anti-phishing code, withdrawal address whitelist. So you want to use all of, hey, they want me to claim $100. Look at that. Yeah. You want to use all of the security features that you find that your exchanges will provide. And so we're talking about exchange security. We spoke about wallet security, exchange security. Let's go on now and talk about general security. Now, cold storage for your long-term holdings. That's important. I think it's something you cannot overlook. You want to make sure that you have at least, even if perhaps you don't have hardware wallets, you can even consider using paper wallets. Of course, the challenge with paper wallets is not encrypted, right? Unless you have your old spy days of encrypted writing on paper. But you want to have perhaps some cold storage for your long term holdings. Segregate your crypto assets is always a good idea. We spoke about that before, having multiple wallets. Don't put all your crypto in the same wallet. And especially when it comes to like purchasing a meme coin or purchasing a crypto asset, you probably should have a separate wallet for each of those transactions. It's very easy to create a wallet in MetaMask or Phantom or some of the popular wallets. So use multiple wallets, and when you're ready, move them over to your long-term holdings. Regular security audits and scans are important, especially of your PCs. You want to make sure you do that because you don't want your PC to be compromised with malware, or worse, if someone has a keylogger, right, which captures your keystrokes when you type them into your computer. So regularly scan your computers and look whatever software you use for security scanning and audits. You want to do that regularly. I personally disable browser extensions when they're not in use. So if I'm not using MetaMask, I'm not using Phantom, I'm going to disable it. But perhaps one of the biggest ways we see security risks is when it comes to social engineering attacks. And these could be very, very creative. And so you want to be careful, right? And especially FOMO, where there's an urgency, where you have to act now. You want to really be careful with that. And often, I would advise you to stay informed about security threats. Recently, I think was it on Mac? I think there was this attack that showed up on Mac. Yeah, new Mac malware, right? You try to pronounce that word. I'm not going to try to pronounce that word. I love my tongue. I don't want to cut it off. But they were targeting Mac wallets, right? Mac computers and wallets, MetaMask, Coinbase, Binance. And so you want to be aware of that. And maybe there's an update. So stay aware of the different types of attacks that are coming. Stay informed of the security risks. So you want to keep up to date and perhaps follow a good website. Where did I see this on? This was on CoinMarketCap, and you find Cointelegraph, and especially look at the security threats. That section might be very important to stay aware. As we continue with general security, I think it's a good idea to remain anonymous in this crypto space. Of course, those of us who do what we do, where we are in communities like the Sniper Club and we're creating YouTube videos, it's hard for us. But I'd recommend you remain anonymous, because when you think about, in the past, somebody will perhaps take your money, right? Go and follow you in the bank and take your money. But now your money is online, and they're trying to get your private key, or they're trying to do a phishing attack. And we've seen cases of people who were kidnapped for their private key, or kidnapped and their wallet was drained. And so these are things that you want to be careful with. You want to look here. Binance talked about just recently a Zimbabwean millionaire couple were rescued after being kidnapped by individuals posing as Interpol officers. They were going after 14 million, 13.9 million. Just think about the elaborate scheme they did to kidnap this couple. And so we got to be alert. And so I would tell you, as much as possible, remain anonymous. You want to have a secure internet connection. And there are a lot of VPNs that can help with that, perhaps ExpressVPN or NordVPN. But especially if you're traveling, right? If you're traveling and you're going in a hotel or you're in the airport, not only Michael Jackson is starting with a man in the middle, but hackers do a type of attack called a man in the middle attack. You wouldn't even know you're being attacked, right? And they operate at such a low layer of the OSI model, almost at the data link or the hardware. Let's not get technical. But what we're saying is Sometimes not even your antivirus would pick up those type of attacks or your security software. So as much as possible, use a VPN, which is going to protect you from encryption, from man-in-the-middle attacks. It's going to encrypt your transactions, prevent people, even if they did a man-in-the-middle attack, things are going to be encrypted. So be very careful when you're connecting to internet cafes, hotels, airports, that type of stuff. As we spoke about phishing attacks, where people impersonate a website via email, etc. And one of the top ways I've seen people get hacked is FOMO. If it seems too good, perhaps it's too good. Perhaps you shouldn't trust it. On Twitter, Discord, who could remember the SEC account got hacked, right? And sometimes you're in a Discord and you see a post by the founder or a moderator, and you say, well, it's a moderator, it's a founder, it's legit. And then you realize you got hacked and you blame the Discord, right? But no, you can't do that. You're responsible for your crypto. It doesn't matter if it came from the owner of the company. Hey, you should always verify. You should always make sure. General rule, I don't like to be the first, and with FOMO, people want to jump in and they want to go first. Be careful of social engineering attacks. And you see it a lot of Twitter, Discord. I think recently, one of the top sites, was it McDonald's was hacked recently? Hey, comment below, remind me. I think it was McDonald's was hacked recently, And some of the best, listen, if a hacker wants to get into your system, hey, they can do it over a period of time. And some of the best security infrastructures in the world have been hacked. So we want to make sure we do everything in our power to secure our crypto. And we started off by saying we don't want to be vulnerable. And the more secure you are, it's the more hackers are going to go elsewhere. You think about two cars, right? And one car has the doors are open, the windows are down, and there's the exact same car parked up at the side of it, but the doors are up, the doors are locked, sorry, the windows are up. There's an alarm system and one of those kind of things, what do you call it, like a club lock, one of those lock. Even though the hacker can get through the door, the windows, the alarm, the club lock, the hacker is going to go for the car whose windows are down and the door is open. So you want to make sure you're not an easy target. And so consider these things. And we also talked about here transfer. What is your estate planning? I think we all have to transfer on death. We all have to figure, we don't want to think about us, but you have 5 million in crypto, 10 million in crypto, 10,000 in crypto, and you pass away. Are your loved ones going to know your private key? And so perhaps you want to put some type of measures in place, to handle things like that. Who gets access to your private keys, and is your private key stored somewhere that becomes accessible? And there are more and more institutions now that are working to providing estate planning solutions for crypto holders. So it's something perhaps you want to consider. Lastly, remember, we've been talking about crypto security. I think this is often an overlooked part of the crypto space, but it becomes so important when we experience loss or a hack. And so this video has been put together by the Sniper Club, and perhaps we've not covered everything you need to cover in this type of video, but we certainly have covered a lot. Some measures that perhaps you can look at to make sure as you have your gains in this bull run that you don't lose your gains to a malicious individual or even a human error or accident. So I want to encourage you on behalf of the Sniper Club, take the responsibility of securing your crypto assets seriously. And we want to wish you success as we go into this bull run. You've been watching the Sniper Club Library series.